anxiety on overdrive. You feel a need for something, and it's coming alive. The moment is rising like you hoped it would. Who knew a tangent could feel so good? Let her take you on another tangent. Turn a thought into a whole new planet. She'll make your sense of wonder feel gigantic. Ember lights the way like magic. You arrived to learn the facts, but you stayed for her glow. You heard her musical laugh, and her quick wit stole the show. The moment is rising like you hoped it would. Who knew a tangent could feel so good? Let her take you on another tangent. Turn an idea into a whole new planet. She can piece the universe from fragments. Ember lights the dark like magic. Who knew a detour could hit like this? Smart mouth, star maps, and a sideways twist. No religion, just a mind on fire, taking us higher and higher and higher. Let her take you on another tangent. Turn a thought into a whole new planet. She'll make your sense of wonder feel gigantic. Ember lights the way like magic.
Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Today we're doing a morning show. We're doing a book talk. Y'all know I do love my books. I actually keep a list of the books that I've read over the course of a year, so I see if I get any repeats, and I get like my stats. My numbers have been down a lot since I stopped professional driving. Do you two? I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but it's fun. Do you two read a lot?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. But it's usually for work.
Yeah, right. For research and so on. Yeah.
For science and discovery. Thank you all so much for joining us. I am joined today by Ms. Karis Burkowski and Sir David Fitzgerald, who have written a book. Hence the whole book things. Like I said, getting ahead of myself. It's fun that way. Behold a book. It's called Clearly Written by Boys, A Woman's Guide to the Bible. And it's been out for a few weeks now. And you know what? We'll read the description. The Amazon description, the publisher's description, if you will. It says, what would the Bible look like if women mattered, really mattered? What if the women of the Bible could tell us their stories themselves in their own voices? What if indeed? So what, you guys, you're the authors. What are your impressions of your own work?
We love it.
It's been fun to write, and it's fun for people to read. They keep telling us that.
That's true.
And so we're feeling just really happy about having it out there.
Yep.
It's fun to read, but it also hits with a punch. Like people have said, they're laughing one minute, and the next minute they're so angry they have to slam the book on the table and walk away for 5 minutes. So
a whole bouquet of emotions in one book. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. But there's obviously there's more to it than just emotions, because it's not a fictional story. Well, considering it's based on Bible information, whether it's fictional is questionable. But in any case,
well, yeah.
I get the first obvious question to ask is, why did you write this?
Well, it started just right after the Dobbs decision. I mean, I'm a woman of a certain age. I've been through all this before. I was a feminist back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And I thought we got through all this stuff and it was all over. And then I could see women's rights getting better and better and better, and things felt really good. And then all of a sudden we get this nonsense happening with the Dobbs decision. And then now they want to take away women's right to vote. I mean, give me a break. So I was just so furious and so upset. So that was the moment. And then I was at BajaCon and saw David do a talk about, well, I've seen him do a few talks actually at BajaCon, but his knowledge of the Bible was so surprisingly great as far as I was concerned, because I mean I had read it all and I knew about it a fair bit, but not like he did. I mean, he could just pull out anything at a moment's notice. So, I mean, I always thought the Bible was part of the trouble, like why we were in this mess. So when I met him and he was so knowledgeable about that, we just got talking and it just happened.
Yeah.
We should do a project.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I get that. Yeah.
And it was so obvious that so much of what's coming towards women right now comes straight from the Bible, and in these traditional fundamentalist types that are the irony of these Bible illiterate sex criminals who could not even tell you the 10 Commandments, and yet they want to kiss up to the MAGA base and flirt with theocracy. The irony of that is just off the chart. And so we want to talk about how the Bible is not a good place for women. It's not a woman's friend. And we started out with a laundry list of, okay, we got to talk about this, got to talk about this, got to talk about this. And I don't know where we got the idea to rewrite some of the biblical stories. But once we came up with that, it was like, oh, yeah, we have to do that. And that was such a fun way to open the book with these 5 stories of some of the most beloved and most hated women in the Bible. And
I mean, if you're named in the Bible, you're hated by somebody in any case. But yeah, that's an important element that people should be aware of. If you know, you folks out there who may not have read the book yet, the structure, it's unique in my experience. And as I said earlier, I've read a lot of books. Not anywhere near all of them, obviously, but quite a few. The first half of the book is sections that start with a passage that's written from each woman's point of view before breaking down the academic information after. Yeah. And that is a really nice touch because, you know, we can read the Bible for ourselves and see the order of events of each woman's story, but it's not portrayed the same way as the men's, right? Like, you know, when Moses faces down Pharaoh's magicians, he does it heroically. And when Joshua invades the Holy Land and kills all the women and children and goats, he does it, you know, majestically or mightily or whatever. Yeah. But when, you know, Ruth wants to like not die, then supposed to be clever and cunning and deceptive and
And it's funny because all the women in the Bible are treated like that. All the heroes and the villains both use the same playbook. It's you got to be clever, you got to be sexy, you got to be smart, and you have to betray somebody usually. And whether they're good guys or bad guys depends on if they're on God's team or on some pagan team.
Right. It's not even their actions. And that's been one of our bones of contention with the Bible in this section of the eighth verse for a while, is that there's no distinction between the horrible deeds that mandate destruction and God's penalties and so forth, judgment on the one side, and the good guys, the heroes, the servants of God, other than the fact they're on Team Yahweh.
Exactly.
But why are they good though if they're doing the same thing as the bad guys?
This is the thing. But it shows you what the mindset of these Old Testament writers was. It's like, when we do it, it's cute. When they do it, it's evil. It must be punished. It's not about what we do. It's about who you are doing it for. If you're doing it for Yahweh, it's all good because he's the boss. And, you know, they didn't even believe in an afterlife. They just believe, well, he's the big one, so we have to obey him. Or he's our God, so we have to obey him because we belong to him. Other gods are over here doing their things, and depending on which book you're reading.
Yeah, I wonder if it occurred to anybody they could convert.
Oh no! No,
because it was tribal back then, right?
It was tribal back then,
being a servant of one God was part of the people group you belong with, and you would be a foreigner in another group, even if you took on their forms of worship and whatnot. That's why Yahweh made such a big deal over have no temples to other gods unless you're Solomon for some
Exactly.
reason, but never mind that.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is when you read the Old Testament authors, they go to the temple and they're worshiping the sun. They're praying for Tammuz. They're worshiping all these other gods in the temple. But hey, that's a whole other book. Literally a whole other book. We'll get back to that later.
Yeah.
Yeah. But getting back to the story bit, it was so fun, first of all, just to tell the stories from the woman's point of view, and just making that one change, it changed everything. It was wild.
Yeah, and we were really careful not to change any of the details. We kept really true to all the details that are given in the Bible, but they were just being looked at from her perspective and her life and her progression through those events. And it made such a difference.
Yeah. And it really made it obvious which of these stories are fictional and which aren't. They're all fictional, by the way. But and we talk about which ones we know were based on real people and which ones we know were not, and why we know that. So it was fun to like give a story and then give the context, because we know our Christians out there, they love their context and they always know what the context is, and they know when you're taking it out of context, except they don't. So
yeah, except if you ask them what.
except you ask them what the context is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh goodness. Now I'm suddenly finding myself thinking of Lot's daughters, but
Oh yeah.
Yep. Nope. No,
We
that
didn't tell that
context
story.
is fine though. It was God's will, probably.
That's right. Well, you know what? That's an example of the stories they would tell around the campfire, because the names for Ammonites and the names for Moabites are puns, meaning things like son of my kinsman and son of the father. So it's obvious that these were just smutty little stories they like to tell each other. And we see a lot of that in the Old Testament. Karis was making the observation that these are stories written by men for men.
Yeah, there's a lot of sexual innuendo and a lot of titillating stories that wouldn't have to be that way, except only men could read, and only men were reading it and distilling it and preaching the stories. So, it was one good way to keep them interested in the work, for example. Like, just keep on reading. There are some things in there that, like the description of Israel when God's mad at Israel.
Yeah.
And, stakes her out and calls people in to rape her and all this kind of stuff. Like, you wouldn't need that kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
And certainly it wouldn't be in there if you had women writing the Bible. But obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing that there's a couple different places in the Bible where the nations are personified, but when they're personified, it's as women. And for very patriarchal societies, it seems strange to me. Do you guys have any insights why they chose to do that, aside from being able to use rape imagery?
Well, that's the biggie. It's we belong to him. He's our husband. The nation belongs to this God here. And I mean, it's just pure patriarchy 101.
Yeah. Women belong to men, so that God owns this group of people belongs to him, so that's how they're personified.
And it's that same thing too, not to get too intersectionality about it, but where if you can make the lowest Hebrew man feel like he's superior to any Gentile or any woman and the king of his castle, you can do whatever you want with people like that. And we see that throughout history, in and out of Christianity, in and out of Judaism.
And we see it resurging.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's been the theocratic Christian line for decades now, and probably longer. It's just been louder recently, where you can tell people that they're slaves and they need to serve, but at the same time, they're better than everyone else.
Exactly.
Anyone who's not in the club, you're better than. So they get to be both things.
Yeah.
They can be pawn scum servants, but at the same time, still arrogant assholes, and they're justified. Yeah. God said so.
Yep.
Yeah. Just look at Project 2025.
Yep.
Yeah. It's so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so incel-ocentric. I mean, that's why the title is the way the title is of the book. It's not clearly written by men. It's clearly written by boys living in their mother's basement in the Bronze Age world. And yeah.
Yeah. And they came up with some interesting ideas. Now, famously, men are not great at writing women. There's like whole Reddit pages about how badly men write women.
Yeah.
And the Bible they weren't even self-aware about their own writing. They just told the myth as it was at the time.
Yep.
So like with Eve, for example, as you guys have said, as others have said, it's pretty clear that this is a creation myth. Duh.
Mhm.
But what many others haven't said is that this myth goes out of its way to not only justify the oppression of women, but to label that oppression as God's will. And people may not realize that that's unique to this specific myth. Why do you think they crafted this one this way, but not the other stories?
Well, one of the things they were trying to do was to kill the older tradition of goddess worship and like the mother god and all that. They were totally turning that on its head. So there's that, and then there's also the idea that women are supposed to be a convenient household accessory, you know, so make the men's lives easier. Yeah.
It's interesting because for a while there's been an idea that the reason there's slavery in the Bible, there's slavery in a bunch of the cultures around that same time, because slavery seems to supercharge a culture. It makes agriculture a lot easier. It makes the chosen privileged people's lives a lot better if you have a forced underclass of owned people. And this is about the same time we see a switch from matriarchy to patriarchy in a lot of these cultures. Now, of course, not all of them are matriarchal, just like not all of them are patriarchal after.
Right.
But there's a big difference. And perhaps maybe that's not the only factor, but a big factor of if you can turn the women into property too, then that makes you even more privileged.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if you are thinking about the idea of birthing a life as being almost magical, mystical thing where a human being comes out of the great mother or out of woman, that gives women status. But when you turn them into chattels, like farm animals that are just breeding stock, like it takes that all away.
Yeah. And not to be too blatant about it, but we don't go for low-hanging fruit in this. I mean, everybody knows the Bible's sexist, but we point out the ways that it's even more sexist than you think. Even like sweet stories like Ruth, which is probably the sweetest story in the whole Bible. And yet, when you give a little context to it, it's like, oh, this is not a happy story at all. This is not a good scene for anybody. And at any moment, this happy fairy tale could have gone so badly in so many different ways.
It's true. There's, oh goodness, like to go back to something you just said, Karis. Eve in the Bible called the mother of life, the mother of all life, in fact, who in a tragic irony also brings death into the world, according to this mythology. You compare her with Pandora, who also releases all evil into the world. In neither story does the first woman actually create anything prior to unleashing calamity. So why, given that, do you believe that they're held responsible for these things?
Yeah. That's a nice, convenient way to keep them in their place.
Yeah. Remember, you should be guilty because you did all these bad things. Not you, but Eve. And Eve is all of you. And they constantly go back to that. Well, everything was fine until women messed it all up. You know?
Yeah, daughters of Eve and things. But I think I don't know. I feel like there's a thread that needs pulling at. How, Eve called the mother of all life when she's the very last being created before she has had any children. So they have to be referencing older myths that they assume the audience is familiar with. Or am I a crazy person?
No, you're absolutely right. And they're turning it on their head to get a whole new thing. One thing that's come out in the last 5 to 10 years is we've realized that Judaism as we know it is a lot younger than we've suspected all along, that we've been told all along. It's about 1,000 years younger than what we've been led to believe. So these were stories. They weren't just old Mesopotamian stories that got put on their head, but they're also being influenced by Greek myths. So the Pandora myth isn't just a similar thing. It's probably the inspiration for this part of that Eve story. I'm holding myself off from going down another rabbit hole, and this and this and this and this and this. But yeah.
Well, even the Bible itself says that there's nothing new under the sun, that all our stories are just iterations on previous stories, different takes, different emphases, the details changed, and then someone else. It's an evolutionary process, right? Like some changes get accepted and spread throughout the population, and others get rejected by a kind of cultural natural selection, and eventually you get entirely different religions from the same original set of basic stories that have been embellished in different ways.
And on that note, it's worth pointing out that like there are whole branches of Judaism that are super humanistic, have great values, treat women fantastic. There are branches of Christianity that really respect women and respect everyone, are very inclusive. But the point we want to make is that that's not where these religions began. And we're not telling you don't be Christian or don't be Jewish or don't be Muslim, but we're saying, look at what these scriptures are. Do you really think a God that loves everybody wrote these? Or do you think it was just these guys living in their mom's basement? That's the argument we make, because you see it over and over again. And not just the Old Testament, because people love to bag on the Old Testament. Oh, that's the old thing. But then Jesus came along. It's all wonderful and great. It's like, no. Even Jesus is not the great egalitarian women lover that Christians love to point him out to be. And we're seeing that more than ever now that his followers are coming back and want to bring out traditional values to Christianity, including there's a Rolling Stone article about the fundamentalists who want to bring back stoning. It's like it would be a joke. It would be a joke if it wasn't true, if there weren't whack jobs out there who were actively not just talking about women losing the vote, but bringing back stoning. Because, what would make America great, like, than turning it into Iran?
I think that's a good example of that cultural rapid evolution sort of thing, is you get, in actual evolution with biology and organisms and so forth, occasionally you'll get a throwback. And what is it? An atavism? The term alludes. Yeah. But we're seeing something like that in the culture now, where they're trying to bring back every old idea, knowing that not all of them will stick, but hoping that by doing them all at once, maybe more of them would stick than the none of them that they have now. Yeah. Perhaps.
Well, I keep seeing these articles about these robotic women that people are buying because they are so like, and you can buy them with bruise that will bruise if you hit them and things like that, like really sick stuff. And I'm thinking, buddy, go for it. It'll keep you out of the gene pool. Like, we don't need any more men who think like that. You just go play with your toys and stay away from real women. Like, fine, go.
I keep seeing articles pop up saying that the Y chromosome is fading away. And, in a few 1,000 million whatever years, depending on who wrote the article and what their estimate is, it'll be gone entirely. And there's always the comments underneath are, you've got your chuds saying, well, then who will protect you women now? And women saying, not fast enough.
No, I don't think that'll happen. But that I do understand what they're trying to say. But no, I don't think that's going to happen. But it's going to be a matter of selection. Like, we're only going to keep around the ones that are the good guys.
It's, that's an interesting thing. And perhaps this is why there's a patriarchy in the first place, is because you would think after all these millions of years, because humans have been around something like 3 million years plus or minus, there would have been some kind of selection, if not on the cultural level, then at the very least something on the biological level, weeding out this tendency toward assholeness. But that seems to be the point of the patriarchy is to like preserve the asshole genes.
Well, and there's lots of reasons for that. Sometimes it's evolutionarily advantageous to have assholes. Sometimes assholes are just a side effect of some other evolution advantage. But yeah, it's easy to come back because one thing, assholes get driven out, and so they tend to not stay in one place. So that helps spread that gene.
Well, and I also think that before they decided, like before the patriarchy happened, which is only like 5,000 years ago, like before that, we were culturally, like as humans, doing that because we survived best when we got along with each other.
Yeah.
Yes, you needed a few warriors to fight off the other guys, but basically we survived best when we all took care of each other and we helped each other, and you know, like when the food was shared and the hunters would bring things back, but the foragers would gather stuff and everybody shared it, everybody got along. So I'm not saying that it was perfect or utopia, but we were evolving in that sense of taking care of each other. But what the patriarchy did was put mediocrity, like mediocre, strong males in charge of everything. It's just like what they're trying to do now. Look at the look at the government right now, like mediocrity in charge.
Yeah.
You're overly polite, I think. Calling them mediocre is giving them far too much credit.
I agree.
Well, it's not my country. I can't be too out there.
Okay, fair enough. No,
we can though. Yeah, it's far worse than
by
mediocre.
my lights, as you may be aware, there's a lot of political issues in this country aside from just tax rates and trade agreements and so forth. The previous administration was mediocre because nothing much really changed. It was a status quo thing.
Yeah.
The administration before that was catastrophic, and we were hoping that a change of administration, we would start to clean up some of the damage.
Yeah.
It kept things from getting worse, but they didn't actually get any better in most areas. It just kind of stayed the same. And that seems to be why the US is where it is because in our two-party system, we've got the conservatives who just don't want to change anything ever. And then we've got the far right-wing nutballs who just want to burn everything to the ground. And so even when the nutballs aren't in charge, we never get even over to the center to start building things again.
Right.
You know?
You just need to have more women, that's all.
Yeah.
It's true. And not the kind of women who are voting for stoning more women, even though they themselves would end up being stoned.
Yeah. When that really infuriates me when I see these women promoting being trad wives and promoting all of this nonsense about taking away women's rights and everything. Like, I could explode. I mean, really.
You see them carrying water for the patriarchy, and it's always some hot 20-something talking about how submissive they are. You never see middle-aged trad wives.
That's right.
Traded wives, we call them.
And none of them are actually trad wives. It's like those Eritrean cult leaders from a few years ago who would be like, I haven't eaten a meal in 3 years. And as soon as the camera turns off, he's got a cheeseburger in his face, you know?
Yeah.
Like you're seeing something that isn't actually true to mislead you into a certain lifestyle. So you pay funds and this and that. Like the fact they're on videos, they're not trad wives because trad wives aren't allowed to speak.
Well, that's the thing. This is all just hard sells for the incels. They're trying to say, hey, look what you can have if you join us and be an alpha male like we are. And buy our vitamin supplements so you get big and strong, and support Trump, but don't support those weak liberal wussies. You'll be a beta cuck if you do that. It's just,
those Antifa libs who won World War II.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Never mind that though. Speaking of alphas and getting us back on the book. the idea that Adam was created first and so he should rule, the non sequitur favoring the patriarchy aside, I can see why the patriarchs would spin it that way, but isn't there just as strong a case to be made that since man needed a second edition, a version 2.0 made in order to do things right, that man was inferior, insufficient on his own, so it was necessary for God, who did make a number of mistakes by his own admission in the Old Testament, to create that improved version.
Oh yeah, but that also like triggers the idea of Lilith, who's another character that we just loved, but we couldn't put in there because she's not talked of enough in the Bible. Like we were sticking to the Bible. We were talking about the Bible, not about all the belief systems. But yeah, he tried Lilith first, and that didn't work because she wasn't about to be submissive.
I can see why they kind of withheld those parts of the stories from the canonical edition, but it's kind of unfortunate because they just outright said, "Oh, women who aren't submissive will be banished."
Yeah,
and
cool.
You'll be the mother of demons, and it's Pandora all over again with that crowd.
Oh yeah, that's another good point. Is it really shows off the connection to the Pandora myth? Yeah, which one caused the other or inspired the other? I suppose.
Yeah,
it's hard to say. But that's okay. We have lots of other women to play with. Like in Jezebel, for example.
Jezebel.
You seem to be making multiple points at once. From the obvious one that violence against women is presented as justifiable if you disapprove of their behavior, to warnings about angering prophets, if not the gods themselves. But I wonder, even though she was probably based on a real person, considering how the Bible often casts entire nations into those feminine personifications, could another point to this story to be that the people of Tyre are just treacherous?
Yes, absolutely. And the people of Tyre, after all, are Philistines, just like our most hated. Phoenicians and Philistines, same thing. Just like Canaanites and Judahites and Israelites, same thing. Samaritans too, for that matter. So yeah, the biggest evil that you can put in the Old Testament author's mind is not just a woman, but a foreign woman who brings all these other gods, and suddenly you're worshiping these girl gods over here alongside Yahweh, and we can't have that, Though, again, the irony of Jezebel, one of the reasons I love her so much is that she is one of the few real people in the Old Testament that's based on a real person that we have archaeological evidence for. We have extra canonical evidence for. We know about her family. We know about her descendants. And her family, the dynasty she married into, they were the first ones to put Yahweh as the supreme god of Samaria / Israel. But
not in the story.
But not in the story. They make the opposite happen. And this is a story written at least 300 years after the fact, if not even more than that. And it's such a hatchet job. It's such a hatchet job. They make a guy who was a golden calf worshiping heretic Yahweh's hero. It's like you could not get the story more reversed than the way they have it now.
One of the clues is in the names. I mean,
yeah,
like her name wasn't even Jezebel.
Her name wasn't even Jezebel. They didn't even get her name right. So yeah, not to give away too much stuff, because one of the surprises in the book is that Jezebel her name was Ithabel, which means in Phoenician, woman of the Lord. They made her name Jezebel, woman of dung. And that's just the kind of schoolboy mentality we're dealing with here in this.
It's the kind of sophistication we're seeing in today's political literal cartoons, where in the U.S. Navy, the sailors have been reporting, particularly on some of the aircraft carriers that have been deployed far too long and have run out of supplies, that there's like spoiled meat and a few carrots, and that's like all the food there is. And so now the commander-in-chief, unable to bear the fact he failed to even feed the troops, is producing AI images with people with 7 fingers eating giant hamburgers.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's just calling your enemy poopy head. It's that level.
I mean, that's like grade 2. That's not even adolescent.
And meanwhile, they're giving cops shop gloves. It's like, we can afford those, but can't afford basic food for. It's like, don't get me started. Don't get me started.
We're improving efficiency. I got a letter a couple of days ago that we are kicking virtually everyone off of what passes for public health care in this country. If you're disabled, you have to get a job in order to stay on the disabled people health care. If you could get a job, you wouldn't be disabled. So we're just everyone go die because we have to send more money to Israel and we have to pay for the shot gloves. And it's just,
it really feels like euthanasia. It feels like they're getting rid of all the old people, the weak people, the sick people, the poor people, so they can replace them with robots, because those people don't buy enough stuff anyway to be worth much. So we'll replace their labor with robots, and then we'll only have like middle class and up. That's all we'll have.
That's the thing, is they want to, even the middle class wants to pretend there's just the middle class and the ultra rich. And if they work hard, they can become the ultra rich.
Yeah. As long as we have a middle class, we're not going to have a middle class for long if this keeps up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, Bestie, I think it's probably been said by others, but most recently it's been popularized by Jimmy Snow, who said that all these middle class people, they think they're just, one good lucky turn away from being billionaire. They're 6 months away from being in the homeless camps and being thrown into the ovens. None of them are 6 months away from being Elon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's a big oof, but detours notwithstanding.
It's funny. I mean, I think we're proving a point we make in the book, is we say we want this book to be a springboard for discussions, and so far from everything we've heard from everybody, it is exactly that.
It's strange how much stuff from thousands of years ago is happening right now.
Yep, absolutely.
In the same way. Like, it's only a matter of time until we see a post from the White House calling Mark Carney a poopy head. Like, that's the love kitty table shit, Yeah. It's unreal. But the story of Jezebel, it kind of, the propaganda for it is really obvious. It's as you mentioned, the name even makes it clear that it is propaganda. But what about that character Naboth? He keeps God's command, seemingly only for the plot of the story, and is stoned to death as a result. So is the message here that the Almighty God can't protect anyone?
No, I think it's that Naboth, whose name means something along the lines of growing or vegetation. He's a symbol of the Israelites, who are the real Israelites. They're the real people of the land. And this evil king wants to steal the real Israel from under the real people who it belongs to. And so he's a symbol for that. And the way they portray it is, of course, that he's this weakling emo king who sits in his room and literally faces the wall and cries about, I can't get this land, brr. And so evil Jezebel comes in and says, don't be a crybaby, I'll get it for you, baby. And it just could not be more incel driven than the way they portray him. Even though in real life he was a badass warrior and died in battle, and died because he wouldn't retreat, unlike other we could name.
And we even allude to that when she's giving her son a hard time because he runs away from the battle, and she says, your father got propped up in his chariot and kept on fighting, leading the troops until he died there. He bled out. And you run home for a little wound.
We're just going to write a different story and pretend this is the truth. In fact, we'll make it scripture, although that part came later.
Which doesn't sound like the kind of guy that would sit in the corner and cry because he couldn't get the vineyard. Like, I mean, it's they just take the story and they just do things to it to make it suit their purposes.
And even they talk about how the machinations of the way she does it, it's like, that would never work in real life. You could never just arrange them, fake witnesses to kill somebody like that without it causing.
Well,
Yeah. Why any Game of Thrones watcher knows there's much better ways you could do it. You wouldn't leave written traces of it. You would, hey, I am evil queen. I want you to do this evil thing. Signed, evil queen. You know, yeah, would never happen. Never happen. Yeah, but they have to do it for the story because otherwise, how would we know it? Of course, they don't explain how they understand the pillow talk between the king and the queen. Were they listening to that too? It's like, don't get me started. Don't get me started.
For real. It's ridiculous and absurd, and yet some people seem to be using it as a guidebook. And speaking of guidebooks, Alira asks, can you hear the name of the book one more time? It is Clearly Written by Boys, a women's guide to the Bible. It's linked in the description if you don't want to do a search. It goes to the Amazon link. Are you guys on any other platforms besides Amazon? That's the one I had handy, but I don't know if it's in other places.
I think we're also on like Barnes and Noble and such. But honestly, go to your local bookstore, your local independent bookstore, and buy it from them, or go to your local library and say, hey, can you carry this book? That's what we love to see.
Yeah, ask them to order it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. If you can still find bookstores,
a local independent bookstore, yeah.
Yeah.
They're out there, and we
Not
need
many,
them.
but they're there. Yeah.
Now more than ever, we need them. Yeah.
Because, like, oh my goodness, well, the hegemony is a subject for another.
Yeah.
There you go.
Another
there
talk.
You go.
So the fact Jezebel may be the first real woman in the Bible who actually did exist, even though she gets changed around. So isn't the fact that she's still remembered kind of itself an endorsement for her fierce independence?
Absolutely.
Because she is remembered.
Absolutely. And they went out of their way to do a hatchet job on her. So I don't know what she was like as a real person. I mean, she was an aristocrat. She was a royal. So she probably was not a innocent Disney princess. But clearly she was not the person. The things that they're mad at her about have nothing to do with what she was like as a real person. And the one thing and yet
you still have modern preachers calling women who stand up for themselves or speak out a Jezebel, an evil Jezebel. You know?
Yeah. The symbolic, what she became, is so much more important than what she was in history. We could say the same thing because they did the same thing about the Virgin Mary and Mary Magdalene, especially Mary Magdalene, because the Bible tells us almost nothing about either of those women, almost nothing. And yet the legend just kept growing and growing and growing to where, Mary Magdalene, the repentant harlot, that Mary Magdalene just looms so large that everyone thinks, oh, maybe Jesus married her. Maybe it was his girlfriend, just that stone just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling.
Even though
the fan fiction is quite compelling.
Yeah, but even though in the Bible she's only described as a disciple, a loyal disciple who does a lot to really help them, and maybe even financially.
Yeah.
And one old pope gets some stories confused and turns her into someone who's in need of repentance, and that story, and that story gets to be the one that everybody thinks of, even though it's not in the Bible.
Absolutely.
Well, the Catholics especially love their fan fiction, even though it was the Catholics and the pre-Catholics before the schism with the Arians when they did the Nicene Creed. They were the ones who were like, no, these books are true and holy, and these books are heresy because we said so.
Yeah. We like what these say. They're clearly the real deal. We hate what they say. Clearly those are, anyway.
Yeah. It's funny to me to call the Apocrypha fan fiction, because even though it is, so are the Gospels. Like, it's all fan fiction.
Exactly. Book of Acts too. Yep, absolutely. And it's so funny seeing what Christianity looked like in the books before the Gospels were written, and what Christianity looked like after the books of the Gospels were written. It's just two different animals altogether.
Yeah, I noticed there's to venture onto a subtopic from a subtopic, but I've been coming across more Christians who you know, how the Protestants are like, we don't need the Pope, we've got the Bible.
Yeah.
There are more and more Christians running around going, well, the Christians in the first couple of centuries closest to Jesus didn't even have the Bible. So you don't actually need that to be a Christian either. And I'm like, I wonder where this is going.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Christians not reading the Bible, that's almost a stereotype right now. It's like, it's
true, and it's so weird because like the whole point of Protestantism is you can read the Bible for yourself. Yep. And it, you know, it says things different than what the church had been saying. It was a Catholic thing that the normies shouldn't read the Bible themselves, only a priest should. Because you know the parishioners, they're just not educated in the ways of the Lord enough to come to the correct interpretations.
Exactly,
which is exactly what we're working on. We're taking the Bible and saying, you can read it. Please read it. Read it, but read it and understand it a different way. And we're helping people to understand it a different way. And for everything we say, like people say, oh, it doesn't say that in the Bible. Almost every paragraph that we have in there has chapter and verse of the Bible. You go look it up yourself. It is in there.
You don't have
just
to take
look
our
at
word
it
for
in a new way.
Yeah. And we kept getting that comment from our beta readers. It's like, wow, once you see this stuff, you can't unsee it. More than one person would say that.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot that goes into the narrative, I suppose you might say.
Yeah.
Like, you know, in Ruth, for example, there's, in fact, you guys make you point out how a girl accepting her in-laws' gods is fine if they're joining this religion, but it would be different if it were going the other direction.
Yeah.
And we see the same double standard all over Christianity today. Do you suppose Ruth's story might be the root of that? Or is it something else and their common symptoms, or who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But I mean, definitely since that story was written, it's become that for sure. It's also funny. Ruth was written in contention with other books of the Bible, like Ezra and Nehemiah. It's clearly antagonistic to what they're saying. They're saying, "Oh no, foreign women are evil," and they say, "Oh no, foreign women are great." And you know, we wouldn't even have King David. We wouldn't have Jesus without these guys. And that, I mean, obviously built on later, but there's just another example of the Bible eating itself, you know, warring with itself.
Yeah, multiple threads of propaganda trying to vie for dominance to control the narrative, because after all, that's all it ever is that's all religion and you could even argue culture itself ever is a people trying to enact a narrative in history.
There's a great word for that. It's mythomachy, which means a battle of myths. It's one myth against another myth. You see it in early Islam all the time. They've got like 11 different versions of a story that never happened in the first place.
We'll fight over which one is true, though.
And the problem is whether or not any of it is true, whether or not it's valid in any way. The Bible has been such a part of forming modern Western culture. Like ever since they decided it was the Word of God, and everybody had to believe it. It's the kind of thing that some households only have one book, and that's the book. Children are taught these stories from early childhood. Mothers teach their children the Bible stories, like they take their kids to church. They help with the brainwashing. It has formed our laws. A lot of our laws are based on sort of an understanding of what the Bible says. And it's such a huge part of our culture. It has nothing to do with whether it was ever true or whatever. It was just accepted. Now it's formed part of our culture. And now we have to deal with it, which is why we're saying read the Bible and understand it this way. And you will understand it's never been the word of God. It's the word of these guys who want to write it this way for their own benefit.
And here's the good news. Here's the good news about all this is now more than ever, women are waking up to this. Christian women, believing women. We talk about at the end how the gap right now, the gender gap in Christianity, American Christianity specifically, has never been higher. There's more men than women in the pews for the first time in human history. And women aren't complaining. They're not fighting about it. They're not making protests. They're just saying bye and disappearing. And Christians are losing their minds about it. They are really peeing their pants over the thought that women are just doing an Irish exit all over the place. And it's because this old patriarchal bullshit has come roaring back so hard. It's like, yeah, you can't get away with that anymore. We're in the 21st century, and it may feel like we're going retrograde faster than ever, but no, they are losing their base. 15 years ago, they were losing young people, full stop. Now, more than ever, it's obvious that it's women in particular that they are losing. And it's because we live in a society where we have gay people, we have atheist people. Their friends are all these different other religions or no religion at all. And people they're not just accepting what the church has to tell them anymore. They're not just accepting church says, well, the Bible says women have to be silent in church. Yeah, no. They're realizing they've only got so many options for leadership positions, and that's all they're ever going to have. And they're like, yeah, no, I've got better things to do with my life than to support this. And that's exciting.
Very.
Yeah, we can do better.
We can do better.
To tie back to a couple of things that we've said over the course of this, it seems as though that the story always formed like a baseline of identity. We believe the story because we are of this people, and showing our allegiance to the story is how we show we're part of the tribe, we're part of the nation, we're part of this, we're part of the us, not the them. The them for everyone else. And now people are realizing they don't actually have to do that. We've progressed to the point where you can identify as an American without being part of the Spanish Inquisition.
The us is getting bigger and bigger and more inclusive. That's the thing. And the thems are, the very definition of us and them is changing. Absolutely.
Yeah. We've got the Ruth story again with the foreigners, it's kind of to tie it back to the Eve story, I suppose, is, in fact, this is one of the things, I'm interrupting myself a lot, but I do have a coherent thought, I promise. One of the things that I genuinely enjoy about books like this one is I come across all sorts of ideas that I hadn't noticed before. For example, you make the case that Ruth was written as counter-propaganda to the nationalist blood purity declarations elsewhere in the Bible.
Yep.
How can we truly hate foreign people if one of them was blessed with helping to bring forth the greatest king ever? And this ties back to Eve. It might seem a lot like the serpent's reasoning. Did God truly say, you will take no foreign wives?
Well, if we want to start getting what did the Bible really say? What was the original thing? Like, that game never ends. It's like you can never get to the bottom of that because, and in a
look
sense,
at a different chapter. Yeah.
Exactly. And like Karis said, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day whether this said this or this. It's like it's what we're saying about it now. That's what's causing the problems. Is these things have been morphing and mutating and metastasizing indeed. Yes, exactly. Yeah,
because it's oh goodness. So a lot of people are like, oh, why, if you don't want to believe in any particular religion, great, but why be an advocate about it? I've asked people this myself when I used to do interviews about other atheist creators. I'd be like, there's a difference between being a non-believer and being an advocate for a secular society. What made you cross that line?
Right.
And that's kind of it, is if people want to believe whatever they want to believe, that's fine. But when they start trying to dictate how other people live based on their beliefs, now we start running into problems.
There's an Arabic friend of mine who said, I don't care if you believe in a stone, just don't throw it at me.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, I love that.
Especially considering how there's a stone at the center of Islam, if I recall.
Oh, yeah. Famously.
Yeah.
Does Allah live in a brick? Oh, I shouldn't be so mean to Allah. Weirdly, I don't meet nearly as many Muslims as I do Christians, obviously. And there are plenty of Christians who are very nice to me.
Yeah.
Also, obviously.
Yeah.
But I have never met a Muslim as hateful as a hateful Christian. Like, I haven't even met a hateful Muslim, you know?
Well,
like,
it's because the Muslims that come out to Canada and America are some of the sweetest people. I mean, they're bad Muslims, but bad Muslims are the hope of the world, you know.
Yeah, they're the ones that got away from it. So
they're the ones that got away from it. Exactly. Yeah.
That makes sense. They were the ones who didn't want to be a part of that nonsense.
Yeah.
And now the nonsense is happening here to some degree. Oh, goodness. It's, you know, we need to set up our own kingdoms and like make them explicitly secular or something so that, like, you know, you can have a religion, but you have to respect other people's religions. You have to respect the people who have no religion. You have to human rights first and your personal beliefs after. And if an extremist puts the values in the other order, they got to go. They can go be part of the other kingdoms, you know?
And I agree with all that 100%. Here's the slight problem with that. And we bring it up because we're trying to speak to especially Christian women and Jewish women, but Bible-believing women in particular. It's like, I know that there's religions out there who are perfectly humanist, perfectly loving, perfectly makes their people better people. But the fundamentalists are the ones who have the verses in their favor. The extremists are the ones who can point to this chapter and verse and say that we're doing the real work of God. That's the problem when it's like when you become better than the God you worship. I don't want you to think we're making fun of you. We're making fun of this Bronze Age bullshit that's been shoved down your throat and how you're better than that. And there are better ways to be than what the box they're trying to put you in.
Yeah, for sure. Just because a human tells you you have to be Christian in this specific way, or you have to be Muslim, or you have to be Jewish, or whatever. In fact, I spoke to a Jewish scholar some years ago who said that there's a large contingent of Jews, call them secular Jews, if you will, who consider that not only was obviously God doesn't exist, but never did exist. That's mythology, like any other mythology.
Yeah.
But that the ancient Jews knew that what we call God now was sort of like a placeholder for this is the way of our people, or our ancestors have decreed, that sort of thing.
And I don't think I'm full on board with that, because archaeologically we know that Judaism came out of Canaanite religion and Mesopotamian religion, and there was more than one Yahweh, let alone more than one God that they worshipped. So if anything, I think, that's I don't know. I have a tough time thinking that's really what it is. I can totally see how now you'd want to distance yourself from your Bronze Age ancestral religion. And people do a great job. There's humanitarians out there who are religiously affiliated, who are making the world a better place. We're just pointing out that you don't need to be religiously affiliated to make the world a better place. And in fact, in some cases, these people over here making it a worse place are doing so because they read the same book you did and have been told something completely different about it.
Yeah.
That's one of the bigger issues we have at the moment, is a group called accelerationists who believe every part of the Bible literally, including the book of Revelation, but they take it a step further. Their fan fiction is that we humans need to bring about the end of the world to force Jesus to come back. And they're trying to end the world as fast as they can.
Yeah. It's real special.
Yeah, they're a fun bunch.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important who you vote for, because if you put people like that in charge, you're not going to do environmentalism. You're not going to do anything that's going to make things better, because it's going to be over soon anyway. We're going to make it be over.
And and we don't mind if these guys make all this billionaire money. It's like the billionaires don't give a crap about this. They just like to divide and conquer us. And this is just one more way they do that. Women versus men, white people versus black people, gay people versus straight people. It never ends. There's infinite ways that you can take a pluralistic society apart if you have a mean to, and you profit off it. And we're seeing that every day in this country. When it catches up and bites them on the ass, they don't always see that going into it, but we're seeing that happening too.
Well, there's a number of billionaires. I've recently been doing a lot more research into the shadowy figures behind Christian nationalism, because more people than ever know they're there, but they seem to have like this cloak of invisibility where even when people dig into them, they only ever find like the more visible ones, like Peter Thiel and Tim Dunn. Like the ones really in the shadows never get any spotlight. And it seems to be they've got this philosophy that in order for society to flourish, it's a really complicated thing, but to super summarize the relevant bit, in order for society to flourish, there has to be a scapegoat at all times.
Yes.
To unite society into hating that one group that becomes the outsider. Now, they'll disagree on who should be the outsider at any given moment, but I think what's really relevant is that whether they're intelligent about the theory or just kind of reacting out of gut instinct, they all seem to know that if they don't cause there to be a scapegoat, they will become the obvious enemy of the people.
The pitchfork and torch crowd. Will come for them.
It isn't just for political divisiveness. It's to protect themselves. It's we look over here so I can stay in the shadows, because they actually are the enemy of the people.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a goodness. Speaking of the people who hide in the shadows and you know, have what is that, the hiddenness problem, I suppose, in Esther, the book of Esther, you discuss the oddity of there being no role at all for God in the story. He stays hidden in the shadows. And it seems that it's been originally presented that way, that the most obvious reading is that while Queen Vashti was punished for disobedience to her king, Esther obtained all her objectives by manipulating him. So what do you think the moral of such a story is supposed to be?
Well, I don't think that ever was meant to wind up in a scripture. It was just a popular fiction. It was basically the Devil Wears Prada of its time. It was a fun story for a once upon a time story about when they were in in the Persian Empire. Gets everything historically wrong about the Persian Empire. Anything it claims to be a fact about it, it gets it wrong, and it's written long after the fact. But
and it's like just a story to explain where Purim came from. I mean, it's crazy.
Exactly, and Purim's
how
awesome,
the tiger got its spots. Well, there was this ruler.
Yeah, right, like that. One of
Once
those.
upon a time. Yeah, exactly. And it's funny.
I said, how did the tiger got its spots?
Exactly. Oh, I know what you meant.
Damn it, Ember. I clearly need more coffee. My goodness.
Clearly. But it was fun. One of the fun side effects of like retelling biblical stories is it becomes really obvious how some of them are clearly just fairy tales. Like the story of Samson and Delilah. It's like, it's so by the numbers. It's like, people don't act like this. People, he's either the dumbest guy in the Bible or she, if you don't see it coming, it's like, I don't know how to help you. And it was funny. Like, we didn't try to like rehabilitate Jezebel. We didn't try to rehabilitate Delilah. We just told the stories as they told the stories. But we tried to do it from their point of view. And it was interesting trying to make these two-dimensional stock caricatures into real people, especially in that case.
Yeah, it was really fun how it's, like we wish the story might go differently, but it's a shift of perspective and the addition of the narrative element rather than it being a third party storyteller. It's an I experience. It's a first person. And that's pretty neat.
Which the Bible almost never does. It's like there's the women characters full stop are outnumbered by male characters, but named women are vastly outnumbered by unnamed women. So-and-so's wife, so-and-so's concubine, that slave, there's some woman he bumped into. They're either connected to some guy that in that way, or they're just nameless figures that we know nothing about except for their placement in this one little story.
Right, lots of wives, lots of daughters. Sarai gets a name, but she's barely there. It's anyway. You just mentioned Delilah.
If you don't have a
and
book
I had a question about Delilah too. Yeah.
If you don't have a book in the Bible that's named after you specifically, you probably don't have many lines in the story. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So in Delilah, you mentioned twice that she's
Yes.
used to symbolize that women are far more dangerous than men if given freedom to act.
Yeah.
Since the story has been
Yeah.
used that way to justify the oppression of women for the good of civilization, do you think what do you think the point is? Is it like a warning or is it a promise?
Anticipation. Well, we lost you at since it's been used to justify for the good of civilization, and then you totally pulled a Tim Curry and left us hanging.
Oh no.
She's frozen up again. Oh no.
Oh no,
You're
she's
being
not
weird
frozen
again.
for me. Yeah.
Oh, it's probably me in Bigfoot country, the bandwidth.
Yeah, I think so.
Pexy, the internet's
See if you
been
can ask us-
wonky all over the place
Yeah.
recently. You know, live broadcasting. That's it's an adventure. So I said,
oh dear.
do you think what the point of Delilah is? That it's supposed to be a warning of independent women or a promise of what will happen if women are given independence?
I think it's more a warning of foreign women because she was not of Samson's tribe.
Yeah.
He was tempted by her because the women over there, they were a little more free and they were a little easier and they were, more fun than the ones back home in their head coverings. So she was a warning of, but look what can happen if you get involved with those evil foreign women.
Yeah. Yeah. It was actually fun also talking about Samson because he's a real funny monkey. Talk about somebody who does not belong in scriptures. It's like this guy is literally so busy, literally murdering people, robbing people, and whoring that we don't see any of his being a judge of Israel. We see absolutely none of that career because it's too busy telling us stories of him, just being a maniac and. Yeah,
the bad boy of all bad boys.
Bad boys of all bad boys, and he's a sun god. He's a very thinly disguised sun god, and we get into that a little bit too. Yeah,
it's pretty fascinating. So my grandmother tried like hell to get me interested in Christianity when I was little, and one of the things she did was she got me a VHS cartoon of Samson's adventures.
Yay.
And that was really weird. It was very 1970s coded. Like the men are all like extra sweaty and there's no reason for it, but it's, but it presents the adventures of Samson. And I'm like, is he supposed to be the hero? Like, what are we doing here?
If you did a movie of Samson today, Quentin Tarantino would have to do it, and it would be rated R because you could not get a PG rating on that story.
Oh goodness, I kind of want to see that now, though.
Right?
Right? My goodness,
Yeah.
it's oh wow. All right, so speaking of judges and things in the story of Delilah, no, Deborah. Goodness,
Deborah. Oh yes,
I'm mixing up everything today. It's a thing. Deborah's prophecy. Jael drives a peg through the head of General Sisera. The symbolism is fantastic, but why she does this doesn't seem to be clear. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's another case of this woman did something that was good for our side, so yay, we like her, even though she's not Israelite, even though she's not here. Deborah is interesting because she is another woman that I wouldn't go out and say she's a real person. But what I will say is the way they present her in the Bible is plausible, unlike most of the people in the Bible. Yeah, there could have been a figure like that who was, issuing out rulings underneath the palm tree. And the song of Jael that you just mentioned about where the woman kills this guy, that's clearly an older part. It's older than the framing story around it. because if one thing, it's different than what happens in the framing story. There's details that don't match up. So it's clear that this is another case where they're taking an old, well-known bit of folklore based on truth or not, and putting it into a later story.
So it's more of a, this is how this came to be this way kind of thing. But like,
well, you've heard this story, let's give you the rest of the story kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the story of that.
You may have heard it said this, but I tell you this.
Exactly how we got the Moses story, by the way. Not to go too far down that rabbit hole, but we not only do we know that the Moses story is like 1,000 years younger than we've been told, but we know who wrote the first Moses story, the second Moses story, the third Moses story, and then our Moses story. Well, we don't know who wrote ours, but we know that ours was a reaction to these other ones whose authors we know the names of, which is fascinating to me. But that's a different book. That's Playing God, the last book I did. So
it's so much fun how people look at the Gospels and they're like, oh, this is a new phenomenon in history. No, it's the same thing over again. I mean, I don't personally believe in that biblical concept that there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, didn't have any idea what the hell atoms were or how to split them or that spaceships were possible. Like, there are new ideas out there, but it seems to be funny. A thing that Bible believers across all of time have very much believed in. And so they just reiterate what's already written.
Yep.
It's very unfortunate because it once again limits the idea of this all-powerful, all-knowing God to whatever the believers can imagine. He's tightly bounded by their imaginations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, when you realize that everything that's in the Bible happened in this little tiny area of the world, it's because that's all they knew. And yet he's supposed to be the God of everything,
Yeah.
And it's funny, actually, because the last book I talked about, Playing God, I talked about that very thing, these evolutionary stages that all, not just Christianity, not just Judaism, but all the world religions, the major world religions seem to have gone through. And it's like, tell me about your God, and I'll tell you what level of society you're at. Tell me about your culture, and I'll tell you what kind of God you worship. Because it's just step by step by step by step by step. And the more inclusive, the bigger, the more cosmopolitan a state gets, the bigger the God becomes. It's not just the God of the hills. It's not just the river God. It's the God of all these tribes. Oh no, it's a tribe of everybody, and he's above them all. He's not just the sun god or the moon god. He's the everything God. And they just get more and more bigger and wider net and more transcendent as you go through all these different stages. And it's when you get these cosmopolitan empires where you've got one dude trying to rule over all these unruly cultures and languages, that's when you get these gods like Yahweh, like Ahura Mazda, like fill in the blank. That's where you get these all-knowing, all-powerful, moralizing gods. And it's true as much for the Western religions as it is the Eastern religions.
Makes you wonder what it's going to be like in 2,000 years.
Right?
I get why the thinking is there. Like, the Roman Emperor Theodosius. I'm so bad with names, but he was the last ruler of like all of Rome because he split the empire for good and all for his sons. He was the one who made Christianity the official religion. Constantine gets a lot of credit for making it no longer illegal, but he made it the official religion and started banning everything else. His thinking
outlawed the rest. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, his thinking was if everyone worships the same God, then they'll follow the same emperor.
Exactly.
Because
he speaks for the god, and the god loves him because he's the emperor. That you tie those two together. It's just goes back to the shaman and the chieftain back in the Stone Age. Once you get those levels going, church and state are just right there, one and the same.
It's great for authoritarian,
absolutely,
but it isn't really necessary. Like in India, for example, what we now call India, which is actually a federation of a whole bunch of nations that got put into one thing under British rule.
Absolutely.
And now it's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And their religions too, for that matter. Hinduism is just as bifurcated and not even bifurcated. Pluriform is in anything. But you were saying,
yeah, exactly. As there have been emperors across history who have ruled larger or smaller parts of India, but they've all, as far as I'm aware, been Hindu pluralists. There hasn't been a religion where one emperor came along and like picked one god and said, this one is real, the rest are demons, and it stuck. You know, like, I mean, there have been atheist kingdoms that lasted for a while.
Yeah.
But nobody who's like gone monotheist has ever persisted, really, that I'm aware of.
Yeah. It's interesting stuff. Again, I keep going back to all other books I've already written, but I talk about Akhenaten and Zoroaster and the first attempts at monotheism, and how we like to think that first you have a lot of gods and a few gods and one gods, but actually it's not even that simple. It's like even plural gods all started with one true god over here and one true god over here and one true god over here. It's not such a clear evolution as we've always thought. These things come and go. They rise and fall.
And the fascinating step is when they invent the good guy, bad guy, like when they come up with the devil.
Yeah.
The devil's always a fun. It's wild to me that the devil isn't female, because like if women are like all the evil, I mean, I get why the Satan has to be depicted as a man, because only a man could be a man's equal. And but
though I have seen like medieval sculptures of the snake in the Garden of Eden, and the snake has breasts, so it's like, make of that what you will. We also talk about how in early Christianity and medieval Christianity, there were New Testament writers, or the monks and the scribes who were inscribing these stories, who decided, oh no, we can't have a woman being the head of the church here. We're going to turn that to a man's name. We can't have this married couple. No, we're going to make two dudes, and they've actually taken women's names of early Christian leaders and turned them into man's names, or erased them altogether. It's just could not be more blatant and sexist.
It's an interesting thing that seems to happen with a lot of these religions that tend towards patriarchy. Like, early Christianity was, as we mentioned earlier, a lot more egalitarian, and then became like women have to be suppressed a little later. Similar thing in Islam. Like, Islamic apologists will talk about how inferior women are till the cows come home. But the fact of the matter is, when Muhammad's army took Jerusalem, it was a woman general, because she was better at leading armies than he was,
Yeah. Don't get me started. Yeah.
We've talked a lot about those initial stories where we take the women's stories and let them tell them themselves. We haven't talked much about the topics that we get into, and I think that's a big part of it too. Like, especially the whole focus on virginity and purity, and what that has done to the lives of women, and making that be such a big important thing, and where you can get stoned to death on the morning after your wedding night if you didn't bleed, and how that's ridiculous, and having doctors, gynecologists explain that the hymen doesn't necessarily break or bleed, and just the thousands of women that have been castigated for that kind of thing throughout history. So, the stories are the fun part, but when we get into the topics, some of that is pretty harrowing.
It really is. Like, for example, you mentioned how the bleeding on the wedding night is what sanctifies the marriage, but elsewhere, the menstrual blood, and I should clarify for the viewers, the first part of the book is written with the women's stories.
Yeah.
The rest of the book is about all the topics and the specific issues. And so we shouldn't overshadow that part. But the bleeding is like a sacred thing on the wedding night, but the rest of the time, the menstrual blood is turned into some kind of demonic essence.
Yep.
Unclean.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why is I genuinely do not understand.
It's just another split between men good, women bad, men up here, women lesser. Because the Bible does not give a crap about male virginity at all. At all. As long as you don't sleep with a woman who belongs to another man, or take somebody else's wife. That's a grievous sin. But an unattached woman, go for it. They a harlot over here, go for it. There's not some of God's favorite people are whoring through the Old Testament, and he does not say jack about that at any point.
Right. And even the whole business about biblical marriage, like for the woman, she's got to have one partner, one mate. Yeah. And the modern version of that is one man, one woman. But in the Bible, there is no marriage like that in the Bible. Like they all have multiple female partners, all of them. Like
we make the joke that Adam and Eve are about the only ones who follow that, and what choice did they have?
Yeah.
That's an interesting one myself that I sometimes bring up, because it really it bugs me, because it shows future revision on the story right on the surface when there's that one interpolation where Adam just like stops the narrative to be like a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and I'm like, how does he know what a mother and father are?
No, Ember, that's Jesus talking, because Jesus was there,
Right?
That's why God says we, because, they just talk about the Trinity, obviously. It's not that there's more than one God creating the universe. Yeah. No, not at all. Yeah.
I know. Jesus is so shy. I mean, God is shy. That's such a weird thing, right? Like in the beginning, God is like wandering around the garden, all do, how y'all doing?
Hey,
don't
Adam,
eat my apples.
And
then later on, he's very shy. And
yes.
during the beginning, when Jesus was there the whole time, actually, he's very shy. But then in Jesus's time, he's wandering around in a physical body. But
and he leads the Israelites through the desert for 40 years, doing miracle after miracle, and they keep forgetting and saying, "Boop, let's worship some of this lump of clay." And through the judges, they would worship God, and then they'd forget and fall into apostasy, and then so they'd get punished, and then he'd come back to him, and this roller coaster just keeps going up and down and up and down and up and down, repeated ad nauseum for at least 6 or 7 times. And it's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
It's like a chain letter in some respects. It's like, there were the Israelites who came with Moses who forgot about me, and this is what happened to them. I sent a bunch of them, except the priest who led the golden calf rebellion. He got to stay, but everybody else got sent directly to the bowels of hell. And then later, this group forgot about me, and even though I was giving them manna every night, they were like, "Can't we have some shellfish?" And he was like, "You know how I feel about shellfish." And so I sent a plague upon them, and it reads like a chain ladder. Forward this or else,
Yeah. And here's the thing too. It's like, we've got these people worshiping golden calves. We've got these people worshiping a bronze snake that Moses held up. All these things is, no, that was all part of God's thing. It wasn't that we have all these different cults and gods being worshipped. No, it was always God from the beginning. And I love that when he meets Moses right out of the burning bush, he says, in those days I was known as El, the chief Canaanite god, but now I've got a new name. It's just they can't even hide the polytheism even in their own book. They try to scratch off the serial numbers, but it's obvious that he's still there.
Well, they even slightly mention Asherah, like he even had a wife. Woo.
Yep.
That's actually one of my favorite things. Is there's a few apologists running around who like to say that the story has never been significantly changed. That's the proof of the manuscript's accuracy. And
I love that.
We find a discovery like the Dead Sea Scrolls, or the Ugaritic stuff isn't strictly the Bible, but it shows like the pre-biblical beliefs. In any case, one of the many things, but one of the more obvious things is we learned from the Dead Sea Scrolls that during the conquest, our modern Bibles had said you must take down the fertility poles or something like that. But what the older scrolls said was you must take down Asherah's poles.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
we updated our Bibles after we found what the older books used to say before someone edited them. And so the Bible has changed in living memory based on a discovered edit. And it brought Asherah back into the text. And
what's funny about that also is you get these stories of, oh, there was bad king, bad king, bad king. Then there was a good king, and he destroyed all that. And then the bad king, bad king, bad king. And then another guy, and he destroyed all that. It's like, yeah, they keep wiping it out, and yet it still stays there as if it never went away in the first place. Ezra and Nehemiah, same exact thing. It's really goofy and hilarious to read how they're telling the story. And it's like, yeah, this doesn't add up, dude. Are you reading your own story? Because this clearly makes no sense.
Mission accomplished. Several
times. Many times.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's goodness. And there's I mean, well, we know there's contradictions, but one particular contradiction caught my attention as I was reading through. On family values, for example, you talk about women being property. Dowries and bride prices and such, but sometimes it seems like the would-be grooms are paying for the woman, like David offering foreskins to the bride's father, but other times it seems like it's the bride's father paying, so she has some protection in the case of being widowed. So these are very similar customs. Are they like a different time sort of thing, or like how does it get determined who pays?
Well, the groom's family pays the bride's family to get the bride, but the bride's family gives the dowry so that if bad things happen and she's left all on her own, she still has some money and she can live, because otherwise she wouldn't be able to. So they could be at the same time.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It is weird.
And a lot of it that's weird.
It's because the terms, and it's probably just a translation thing because they've been through so many languages to get to the English version, and there's so many English versions. But the fact that the same terms are used for, I guess, antithetical concepts. I guess it's like flammable and inflammable. It sounds like they should be opposites, but they mean the same thing, but in reverse. It's the same terms, but they mean opposite things. I don't know.
One thing, whenever we're talking about marriage and betrothal and all that, it's always a business transaction. It's never, Miriam met Joseph and they fell in love. No, there's no stories like that at all. It's always, I like that woman. Get her, acquire her for me. Or I took her and raped her, and now she belongs to me because I paid the debt off. That kind of thing.
Yeah, she is my property. I have paid for that. It is interesting that the rich and powerful are so often depicted in these stories as being smitten with a woman's beauty and demanding her as a wife.
Yep.
And given what we know about the business arrangement basis of high-ranking marriages, it seems like they should be held as warnings against greed or lust, but instead they appear so often to be reflections of envy for those of high station, as if the message actually makes it across is, if I were rich, I could buy any woman I wanted.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. And don't covet your neighbor's property like his ass or his servant or his wife, because those belong to him, and that would be wrong to steal from them. We also get into who owns your daughter's body, because there's some very troubling thing as you go from the father owning the woman to the husband owning the woman, and all the Venn diagram of the ways that can go wrong. We get into some very dark aspects of that.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if, we see the Andrew Tates today professing that kind of women are property sort of thing, possessions to be mistreated. And so I kind of wonder if these elements within these ancient stories, are they the basis for that kind of cultural thread, or are they a reflection of it already being present? I guess it's which one's the cart, which one's the horse.
The chicken or egg question. Yeah. Is the Bible sexist because this is the way it was, or is this the way it was because the Bible's sexist?
Or is it the way it's written because the guys that got to write it were the guys who were like that? Not all the guys were like that, just the ones who wrote the book.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have to remember too, everybody who wrote anything in the Bible was doing it to create a narrative, to create specific social goals. They had specific social goals in mind. And even stories that weren't originally about that, well, we're going to include that story because it suits our narrative. It helps what we're trying to get across here.
On that note, and also kind of relating to the billionaires thing from earlier, you add a passage from Proverbs that describes marriage as a rare and precious thing that few men are blessed with.
Yeah.
This seems at odds with the modern conception that your relationship isn't valid unless you're married. If marriage is a rare and precious thing that few men are blessed with, is it possible that in antiquity marriage was a custom reserved for those who could afford it rather than a tradition enforced on everyone regardless of class?
Yeah, you have to wonder at how much common law, what we would call common law marriage, was the thing back then as well.
And we know there was bride markets too, for the rich families would arrange it and give each other money, and then that would become the basis for the marriage. But there were often poor families too, and sometimes a poor family might sell their daughter to be a second wife or concubine to a rich family's person. Or if they were really poor and they didn't have anybody to make those deals for them, they did have bride markets where you could come in and bid on one of the leftover girls and just get her for a wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was such a... I read about that recently. Apparently that's still a thing today. And I mean, of course, there's like the mail order brides thing that you see on the internet or even in catalogs and things. But places where a village or something where parents would bring their second or third daughters or aging daughters who hadn't found a suitor, and basically they'd hold a town festival and they'd put them up on a stage and take bids and sell them off. And it's I lost
Ember for a moment there.
Oh no.
Yeah, she's talking about a modern marriage market. It does still happen in some places.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing some background research into something, and I came across a story of a village in Spain that had done one in the 20th century.
Oh wow.
But they're still happening. You can find Facebook notices for that sort of thing.
Wow.
Today in the US.
Facebook. Wow.
There's people selling their daughters. But the child trafficking has to be stopped. Yeah, okay. We believe you. Mm-hmm.
It's funny, you think concubines would be a bigger deal for evangelical Christians now, but nobody says diddly about the idea of concubines. They just say, oh, that was the old thing because blah, blah, blah. It was okay then because blah, blah, blah. But no, we wouldn't do that now. We're under a new covenant or whatever.
Yeah, but God never changes, though.
But God never changes. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, goodness. So there's a lot of things phasing into the New Testament. Considering the instruction from Ephesians that husbands should treat their wives the way Christ treats the congregation, and the traditional oath of until death do we part is the message that the husbands should be absent from their own families to the point that nobody can even be sure they actually exist.
Well, Paul, getting marriage advice from Paul is so ironic on so many levels. For starters, I have to say, he's like, I don't understand why all men can be just like me, completely immune to the temptation of women. I'm going to run off with Timothy and Onesimus and my slave boy Onesimus and all my other missionary friends. But women
and the idea of from death or till death do us part. I mean, women died in childbirth at such an alarming rate that till death do us part was really not necessarily going to be that long a time. Especially when there was no contraception and they had no ability to say no, and they could not refuse their husbands. I mean, they're going to be pregnant a lot, and a lot of those pregnancies are going to kill them.
Yeah.
We're working on that today too, apparently.
Apparently, yes.
Yeah.
Yikes. Big, much yikes. It's
much yikes.
Much yikes, yeah.
Much indeed.
It's I have a lot of thoughts on that, but instead I'll just move along.
Yeah.
You and me both. You and me
On
both.
marriage,
Yeah.
the prohibitions on interracial marriage seem contradictory to me, since the concept of the holy seed mixing with the people of the land is exactly how the sons of Adam, including Cain,
Yeah.
get the divinely cursed branch of humanity going, spread
Yeah.
original sin throughout the pre-existing nations. So, did conquest by crossbreeding fall out of favor? If one drop is enough to taint a bloodline, isn't one drop of the sacred stuff enough to purify one?
One would
Huh.
think. One would think.
No, but we don't want to waste the good stuff on those foreigners.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so weird how we have this purity complex. Our bloodline is pure and must not be contaminated. But if it is actually superior, then it should be doing the contaminating, don't you think?
And what's more is, there's no such thing as pure bloodlines. There's inbred bloodlines, and you get the Habsburg chin and all that. But yeah, I think so much of that business was talking about, well, this is all coming back in Hebrew scriptures when Israel was becoming a nation for the first time, when it was, during the 2nd century BCE, when for the first time it was an independent kingdom under Rome. And that's where a lot of this nation building mythology comes from, is right from then. And so they talk about how in Spain, every Spaniard is secretly terrified that he's 1/4 Jew and 1/4 Moor. And I think there's a lot of that going on then there too. It's like, oh, well, these guys are these guys are real true Hebrews. We know because we wrote their name down in this book here, and all the other ones kicked out their foreign wives. So we know they're part of the pure bloodline, as put down in Ezra and Nehemiah. So yeah, you don't have to read too far between the lines to realize what they're trying to do with these stories of kicking out all the foreign women and following Yahweh like they did all along, right back, making Israel great again.
Oh my goodness! Why
Yeah.
does this keep coming up?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
It does happen throughout history. Like, we saw it in various points throughout the 20th century. We're doing it again in the 21st century, sending everyone who wasn't born on these sacred soils to Sikhat and all this shit.
Yeah.
But, in the big Holocaust, people with, 1/8 Jewish ancestry, one drop of Jewishness, and you're off to the gas chambers.
Yeah.
And people seem to worry about this. Like, there's, white nationalists who discover that they had a great-great-grandfather who was a freed slave, and they lose their shit. Their entire identity comes unraveled.
Yeah.
And, other things along similar lines. Like, and I kind of understand the identity thing, right? Because, I found out a couple of years ago that I was intersex. I'd been lied to my whole life about that. And it kind of like, it's like your whole foundation is just myth, and you're just floating in midair, not knowing who the fuck you are.
Right.
But if you're worried that your nation might banish you if they find out the truth of your bloodline.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if they had 23andMe in 1930 and they were actually checking everyone's bloodlines biologically, and it turned out Hitler was Jewish, like the Scheckelgruber theory, it's wild to me that you can base your mythology on one person, one right, one Fuhrer, and it's so arbitrary and capricious and so contrived. It's like, no one's 100% anything, and if they were, they'd have serious health issues for the most part. Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's such a weird thing to me because I learned, because I had a secular childhood, I learned about evolution before I learned about tribalism. Which maybe it should have been taught the other way around, because you have to know how to deal with humans. But in any case, when people started pointing out, these various us versus them divisions, they're different people, they're different. I'm like, we're all cousins with an arbitrary number of once removed, twice removed, 100 times removed.
You go far enough back in time,
anyway.
We're related to the salad we ate and the cats we pet. And it's like Yeah, we're all related. Yeah.
Yeah, it just I don't know. I mean, we welcome the cats, and they're much more distant kin than the guy from the next country to the west or whatever. You know.
Yeah.
It's
amazing how you
humans
can
are
always
silly.
sell hatred and fear. Those are the easiest things to sell.
Yeah. And that brings you right back to divide and conquer.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah,
But
the double standards.
Yeah, and it's the fact that nobody is 100% anything just plays into that. It's like, yeah, if you're afraid you're not in the group, you're going to be extra hard to be in the group. You're going to the zeal of the convert. It's so twisted and diabolical and perfect.
Like Milo getting arrested and sent away. I thought that was brilliant.
Irony. Oh, the irony. Love it.
That seems to happen a lot in Italy. Like I'm thinking of the end of Mussolini, which for some reason they don't teach us about in American schools.
Yeah.
It's just, after World War II, he just kind of faded away. For some reason, he wasn't at Nuremberg. Who knows?
And then one day you look at, oh, that's what happened to him,
Yeah. Oh, the
Same
people did have other ideas. Interesting.
But
on the double standards.
Everybody who's pushing for basically fascism now, they never read the end of the chapter of what happens to the fascists at the end, That's the part they never learn.
Yeah, surely it won't happen to me.
Leopards would never bite my face off. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Well, all we have to do is win this time, and there never will be a Nuremberg or getting caught by the workers' unions or what have you.
Yeah.
You won't have to hide in a catering truck.
Yeah. Or have another election.
When that asshole is on camera saying things like, "Oh, we're gonna fix it so you never have to vote again," and they're going, he's like, "What the hell, people?
Yeah.
Read a book."
They know. Like that's the point. Like they may pass it off as a joke because trolling culture is just how people at that kindergarten level of kiddie table rhetoric think. Which is really unfortunate, but they know what it means. Like it's not even a subtle dog whistle to them. I've got a supercut of various apologists saying horrible things that I play sometimes on this channel. And in there's a couple bits of the social consequences of that kind of thing. And there's 2 clips of Donald Trump saying, well, they rigged the election and that's why I'm your president. Like I didn't win. Elon rigged it for me, And I have 2 of them so that people can't just say, "Oh, he misspoke that one time." No, he says it often. He's like, they rigged the election, and that's a good thing because that's why I'm your president.
Yikes.
Yeah, they know. They all know.
Yeah, he just says it, and no one does anything about it. Like, maybe he means it when he says he's the law and order president because he's the test to see if there actually is any law and order if we've just been playing pretend all this time.
Dear. Oh dear.
He is a constitutional crisis for sure, but I digress.
But
on the double standards. With Jephthah's daughter, you mentioned the juxtaposition where Isaac is saved, but she is not. In fact, she doesn't even get a name. She's just Jephthah's daughter.
Get a name. Yeah.
The boys matter, and the girls apparently don't. So what I'd like to ask you about is how this compares to another story from a neighboring land. How does Jephthah's daughter being sacrificed by her owner compare to the sacrifice of Odysseus's daughter before going on the campaign against Troy?
It's not a coincidence that you see these things echoing back and forth between Greek mythology and Jewish mythology, because as it's become abundantly clear, and we've mentioned already in this show, Judaism is much younger than we think, and it came out of the Hellenistic world. It just as much as it came out of the Mesopotamian world. So it's not a coincidence that Samson is the Jewish Hercules. It's not a coincidence that Pandora and Eve are basically the same figure. It's not a coincidence at all that you get these Hellenistic tropes in Jewish the fact that we have 12 tribes of Israel, even though there's way more tribes than that in the book, comes from Plato himself, who said, yeah, the way to have a perfect society is we have 12 tribes, and they'll rotate, once per month, taking on various tasks and stuff. There was none of that in the Bible before that book was written. And
that's interesting. I always thought that was a Chaldean influence, because the ancient Babylonians, who gave us the 24-hour day, 2 cycles of 12, 60-minute hour,
60,
5 cycles of 12. I thought it was their influence, because I'm like, oh, there's the 12s again,
Yeah. It's interesting. That's where the Pythagoreans got most of their ideas, was from Babylonians. In fact, we're not even 100% sure there was a guy named Pythagoras. He may be just as mythological as Robin Hood or Jesus.
Oh boy!
Because things like the Pythagorean theorem, that was discovered by the Babylonians. The Babylonians knew about that 1,000 years before them. So, yeah.
I could kind of see, we know there was the Pythagorean school.
Yes,
but that doesn't
absolutely.
necessarily mean it was named for the founder, the way Plato's Academy was named for the founder. Someone could have said, oh, well, these Pythagoreans, they follow the teachings of a guy who must have been called Pythagoras.
Who must have been real. Yeah, exactly. And that's something, again, I talk about this in Playing God a lot. It's so much easier to start a religion or a movement or a school if you have this one founder who started it all and said all these wise things. But in reality, it seems like what you do is you get a figure who becomes a clearinghouse for all these different ideas. And it's like, oh, here's a wise thing. Aesop must have said it. Oh, here's a wise parable. Jesus must have said it. Solomon must have said it. And they become the magnets to which you put in, the sack that you put all this wisdom in, or it gets attributed to them. And
we see the same thing in the modern era with,
absolutely.
The Brothers Grimm's fairy tales. It's very clear in the books that the brothers were just writing down the folklore they were told by others, that these were just folk tales. But nobody reads the books, and so people are like, oh yeah, the Grimm brothers, they made up as many stories as Mother Goose did.
It's like, nope.
They didn't make up any of them, know?
Right.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, this is a real digression, but the fact that you mentioned fairy tales made me think about cartoons. And I just wanted to mention that the book has 65 cartoons in it. We approached a cartoonist named David Hayward, who used to be a minister and now does cartoons and other kinds of art projects. And he does cartoons that are quite strategic and effective, and we could take a whole 4 pages to describe something and then throw in one of his cartoons, and it just zaps it into your brain because it captures it so clearly.
You may know him better
as mention that.
You may know him better as the Naked Pastor.
I've heard that name, yes.
And I'm sure if you go on Instagram, you'll say, "Oh yeah, I've spread around this cartoon. He's really a genius. He just does great stuff." And I'm so delighted. We both were talking about what do we need to add to the book, and we said, "Oh, we should reach out to him, see if he'd be interested." We found his email. We reached out to him. Within 2 minutes, he'd gotten back going, "Oh my God, this sounds awesome! I'm so in." It's like we were over the moon. We're over the moon. And we should also mention Kat Hardy, the artist who did all the portraits of the women's stories that we tell, and including Mary Magdalene and the Virgin Mary. Her art is just so gorgeous, really brings these people to life in such a beautiful way.
Now that one is Eve, but if you could find Mary, actually I have it, I can probably help you. It's on page 296.
There we go.
When we asked her for a picture of the Virgin Mary, and she did it. She sent us a nice traditional modest Mary, and we wrote back to her and said, well, not quite. We want a Me Too Mary. We want a Mary who's looking up at God and going, what?
Keep scrolling down, Ember. Keep going. It's a little further than that.
Yeah.
Little further. Okay. Yeah, there's
There she
always an
is.
offset between
There.
the page number and the PDF page number.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh yes, you're right.
Yeah.
But like she's not looking down and being all modest.
Ah.
Look at the look in her eyes. Like she's like shocked and like what? You know. And
Yeah.
the same with Ruth. When we did Ruth,
Oh,
she
yeah.
was holding some sheaves of grain and looking down and everything. And we said, no, she's got to go do some things because she's got to survive. She's going to go seduce Boaz. I want her to have some side eye. I want her to look a little bit more like she's got a bit of agency, and she's going to have to do some things.
Cool.
And she did. The artist was great. She just did
Yeah.
exactly what we wanted.
And we kept saying, no, we want this. We want this. And she was so good. And,
Yeah.
yeah. She's terrific.
Oh yeah. And I really approve. I mean, not that you need my opinion, but I enjoy the fact that there's like human illustrators and like
Yes.
illustrations. And so, I mean, we
Yeah.
could, for Mary, for example, we could include a photo of a piece of toast, I suppose.
Why? I want to say she does digital art, and it's so well done. You almost think it's AI,
But it's not. No AI.
It's not AI. There's no AI we use in the art.
And
or
we
in the
know
book
that
at all.
because she would send us progressions. She would
Yes.
show us like the basic outline and then a little bit more detail, a little
Yeah.
more detail, and
Yeah.
we have the progressions of the pieces of art, and so we know that. And she's
Right.
really quite talented.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we love to see it. That first one, Eve.
Mhm.
It makes me think a lot. I don't know if you guys know Ryan Koltastic, a former JW. I don't know. It sticks out to me as anybody who knows. It's not quite the same, but like there's a resemblance, and I could
Nice.
definitely see Ryan modeling for something like this. There we go. I found it again. It just.
Yeah.
You know, so Ryan used to be, we did a show together with a bunch of different girls called Job and Jugs. And Ryan was like a founder, I guess you might say. Like it started because she'd been co-hosting another show, and the host took a day off, and Ryan was like, I'm going to do a show anyway. Ember, come help me do a show. And then we just started adding more girls. And so it ended up being like the women's show, and the name changed a bunch of times. And it did. In any case, so people on this channel have seen Ryan a lot, is what I'm getting at.
Awesome.
It's really neat. All right. Yeah. I know we're starting to get towards 2 hours, but I do have a couple of other questions. I'm full of questions. My goodness, I have so many questions. I chronically over prepare, as everyone knows. The bit about all this various killing, all the murder, all the unholy blood, etc., and then you mentioned the part about the bitter waters, and this makes me start to wonder: where does anyone get the idea that life is sacred for this guy?
It makes you wonder what you were cracking up there.
Oh goodness, the dang internet. Where does anyone get the idea that life is sacred to this guy? Like at no point does he say life is sacred. He kills a whole bunch of stuff and he hands down an abortion potion. So what do we do?
Jesus. Yeah. Oh, but Jesus, he makes it all better. It's that what he's talking about, when they're talking about the bitter waters, that's called the sota ritual, and sota means a woman who is strayed. Who was I trying to bring it up? I have friends who said, "Oh, this is clearly an abortion recipe. This is how they get on it." But the thing to keep in mind is like, this is not an abortion recipe.
No,
this is a witch trial.
Yes,
this is a woman who's accused. We don't know if she's guilty or not. She only knows she's accused. This is going to humiliate her. It's going to denigrate her, and it will probably
poison her.
It will probably poison her to death. It almost certainly will poison whatever she has in her womb. But it's if she survives, and if the baby survives, then God says she's innocent, and so
Yeah.
It's heads I win, tails you lose. Either it aborts the baby who belongs to some other dude, it kills the adulterous wife, or she survives and the baby survives, and it's all good. And who?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the
Floats
worst
like a
part
duck.
is that she doesn't have to even have been found guilty of anything.
Yeah.
If the husband just wants to throw her over and get a new wife,
Bingo.
he can
Bingo.
accuse her and make her
Yep.
go through all this horror and
Yep.
probably kill her.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the trial. Like, that's what trial meant at the time. Is like, this is how you prove your innocence, is if you
Yes.
survive
Yes.
and God favors you.
And we
and
give
so
the
forth.
whole recipe of what actually goes into these bitter waters, and it is nasty. It's just
Yeah,
nasty.
it's not an abortion recipe for sure. No.
I mean,
Oh my.
except in the sense that it'll abort a baby and the mother, and yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, but that kind of reinforces the point that like life is not sacred to this
No.
God.
No,
Well, if you can have a flood and kill off everybody but Noah and his family, I mean, life's
including
not that sacred.
babies, including unborn babies, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
but
Thank
post-term
you.
abortion from Jess, yes.
Yeah. Yep. There we go.
Post-term abortions for everyone. Oh goodness,
Post-term
it's a whole.
abortions. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's so much in this book. I can't emphasize enough how we don't go for the low hanging fruits. If you have the annoying uncle at Thanksgiving who rattles off, this is what the book you want to have in your court to have some answers for him.
Right.
It does provoke a lot of conversations.
Will,
for
it
sure.
will.
My
Buy
goodness.
it for your Christian women friends. Buy it for your Christian men friends and say, hey, this is all, I'm sure this is all wrong, but please tell me where it's wrong. Tell me where it gets
Yeah.
wrong.
Mhm. Yeah, but what's going on in this story? Tell me what's up with
I
it.
know this is
I'll-
all bullshit, but explain me why. What
Yeah.
should I tell them? Yeah.
In fact,
Oh, good.
we even went so far at the end of the book to try and provoke more discussion. We even put in a whole section for get your friends together and have a book club.
Yep.
And here's some things you can discuss for each chapter.
Yeah.
And that was where we got a chance to throw in the Lilith story because we didn't really put her in the main part of the book, but we did include her in there.
Bring her up. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did notice. I've been seeing more authors include a bit about, hey, how about you do a book club? Or if you have a book club, maybe ask some of these questions.
Bingo.
And it's, yeah, it's interesting because there's such a cultural resurgence for books, I suppose, to some extent. There's the whole book talk thing, which is a bit of a controversy lately because it turns out people on TikTok don't actually like reading.
That's a sad thing. Yeah.
It's a whole, oh goodness, I could go on and on and on, but not to digress too much. I've one more question before we wrap up for you, and it's one of my personal, I'm always wondering questions. Obviously, you have to make edits. You have to sometimes take out large sections to keep it trim and say what you want to say and not get too distracted on other things. Things. And sometimes it's a little bit heartbreaking. Like my first novel, it was originally 700,000 words, and my publisher went, "No, you're not Terry Goodkind. We're not doing." So I had to cut huge chunks of plot. So what's just one thing that you guys wound up cutting during the editing process that you really wish you could have included?
Well, we had a whole laundry list of things we wanted to talk about, and we realized it's not that we're trying to write a book. We're trying to write a short book about all this. So it's like we would have made an encyclopedia out of it. There's like, for instance, we deliberately did not do a story chapter of Mary Magdalene or the Virgin Mary, mostly because which one would we use? If we did all 4 Gospels, we would either know nothing about this person, including their name, or we would know these little snippets here and there. Christians love to lump all the Gospels together, and they forget that the Gospels aren't telling the same story. They're supposed to be, but they're not. And so it makes it very tricky to try to give the real story. Not that we're trying to give the real story.
The Gospel of the Many Marys.
The Gospel of the Many Marys. I mean, we could have gone Lot's daughters. We could. There's lots of stories that we could have like really gone in more detail of Salome. And there's women who get a mention in the book, even if they don't get a whole chapter of.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we squared that circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty. I personally would have liked to see Many Marys too, but I get it. I get it.
I mean, we do spend multiple chapters talking about the Marys, so it's not like we're completely neglected them.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, well, she, Virgin Mary gets an I don't know. I've always been partial to Mary Magdalene. Did you guys ever see a TV show called Millennium? Back before the Millennium?
Yeah.
I learned so much because, again, my grandmother tried to get me into Christianity, but it never took.
Yeah.
So I didn't know like any of this deeper Christian lore, like the Black Madonna. And I'm like, ooh, secrets. Tell me more. I was so mad when they canceled that show.
Yeah. Another case of evolution in action, because the stories just keep getting bigger and bigger, bigger,
Yeah.
Great sign of folklore. A period classic sign of folklore is the stories get better and better.
Right. It's an exact parallel to Superman in that, in the 1930s when Superman comes out, he's faster than a locomotive. He's able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. And by the 1960s, he can fly and stop nuclear weapons. Like,
and you also have stories of Superboy, young Superboy.
Yeah, backstory.
Just like all the infancy gospels of Jesus that came up later,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Those parallels are spot on.
Yeah.
And yeah,
because humans just keep doing the same things. Even if the stories do change, even if there are new original ideas, humans are still humans, and the patterns of behavior repeat.
Yeah.
Given long enough,
and that's a nice point about the book, is that we're showing that just because some people made up this story, and we've based our culture on this story for all this time, once we know that it's just a bunch of stories that some guys made up, we can change the stories, or we can toss up the stories. We don't need to do this anymore once we really know what's going on. Yeah.
We can write our own stories.
Yeah. A new story.
Absolutely.
A new story.
That's actually been, I suppose that's a good way to put a pin in things, is one of my recent phrases, when I first started the channel, I would say something like, you're better than religion. But whenever I can work it in, I point out that culture is fundamentally a story. It's a people trying to enact a narrative into history, but we deserve better stories, and we can make better stories.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for stopping by and telling us about I don't know if what you've written really qualifies as a story. It's sort of like a meta-analysis of a collection of stories, but thank you for your work and for coming by to talk about it, and continuing to promote, people thinking for themselves, which is something we very much need more in the world. Oh, goodness. And thank you all for joining live. I very much appreciate, as always. I haven't done a morning show in a while, so thank you all very much for showing up.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Ember.
Absolutely. Book is linked in the description. You can find these two floating around the interwebs, and, I'm here sometimes. Alrighty, folks, that's it for today. Live long and prosper. Thanks to all our patrons and top-level members for July. Miranda, Tux, Ian Chen, Maya Adkison, Robin Webster, Karen Butcher, Ember Lynn, Margie, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, Lil of All Trades, Deviant Outcast, Thriver Scapegoat, Katie Bluebird, Noise Ending, Secular Feelinist, and Alira the Free. And you can add your name here next month by signing up at patreon.com/betterthanember, or by joining Emberships here on YouTube at the Cinder level, which also includes all the custom emojis, tons of member-exclusive content, and a bunch of other stuff. I deeply appreciate all the supporters who keep this channel going. Thank you so much. Because of you, we're building a wonderful community that I'm very proud of.